it helped us, the whole certification and that journey in a positive light, and our experience. It's often said that it's easy for a big company like you to go and get certification. You can afford it, you have the resources, it's no problem. It's actually, if anything, it's more difficult. But having said that, it's been a very positive experience. We achieved Level 2 Business System certification in 2015. I suppose we got to know the team in BRE back in 2013, and we looked at, originally we would have travelled over to Watford looking at the individual certification scheme, and it was only after a number of us completed that we looked at certification from a company point of view. So why? And again, both Geraldine and Leon and mentioned about, why is it do we want certification? Why are we going down this route? Well, it's different for every organisation, and it's also important to realise that the standards are in transition, and all along this journey, things have been changing. There's been change all along the route. So I'm just going to take you on our journey. I'm sure there's other people here in the room that will have their story, but this is what has worked for us, and it's been a very positive experience to date. So in terms of the background and why we got involved, well, we all remember, it seems an awful long time ago now, but we all remember the recession in 2009 and how difficult things were. We had to be, we had to deliver projects better. We had to deliver projects in a more lean environment. We had to be better at how we did. We had to be more economical. New skills were required. All of those things. And if you take an organisation like us, we're a big organisation. Yes, we have over 5,500 people working for us, 125 countries. All of those things. But at the time, we were part of an office or an organisation in Ireland, and we were affected by that recession in 2009, like lots of people in this room. Today, in 2019, between our UK and Ireland operation, we have about 1,200 staff. In Ireland, ROI, we have about 450. And if we look back at the figures in 2001 in our Galway office, we had 2 people. So when people say to me that it's easy for an organisation like you to get certification, spend the money that needs to be spent, I would say every office as part of an organisation like this has to stand up on their own 2 feet, and they have to make things work. What's also interesting is from the period of 2009 to 2019, when things were difficult and when we were getting involved in these standards, we managed to grow our numbers in our Galway office from 45 to 130. We were the first office in our group that got certification. In terms of why we look at the external requirements, and of course we look at the UK, our nearest neighbours, in terms of we were looking for new opportunities at the time. So we're all at this stage, certainly in this room, aware of the UK Government Construction Strategy document in 2011. And at the time we were looking for new opportunities outside of Ireland into the UK and across Europe in terms of types of projects that we could work, grow our business. And not just grow our business, but keep the doors open for people that were in what was at the time a small office in the west of Ireland. We also see in terms of what's happening in terms of the NBC, the roadmap, Buildings Ireland's Future, and even in terms of today's event, we're all aware that we need to move in this direction. And it's very positive in fairness, and I've been at lots of events in the UK and across Europe and indeed in the States. And in fairness to the people here, and in fairness to Alan and the team at CitA, I would say we're ahead in that regard in terms of the work that's been done, which has been very positive. But it's a journey. In terms of internal requirements, and we look back at the map in terms of how could we be better integrated into and take advantage of the group that we have across the globe. So we wanted to be a more unified business in terms of our people, technology, innovation and skills. So, we have the tagline, make complex easy. But how do you do that? It sounds very simple. And lots of time, it's just hard work, perseverance. Leon talked about, why are we doing it? are we going for certification just for the sake of it, or are we going for certification at an individual and an organisation level to make us better at what we do? And if we're not doing it for the latter, well then don't bother. That's the point that I would say. Change in terms of, at the time when we looked at this, it would very easy to be say, we won't bother. When we looked at this at the time, and to be fair, there was no flexible, what we call BIM program in place at the time, 2009, 10, 11. It wasn't there. There was some people looking at it. There was some early starters. There was, in fairness to Ralph and the guys, there was people, talking about the benefits of BIM way back. But in terms of access to that and how we did it from an office or a company or an organisation point of view for us, it was limited. We knew from the outset that we would need to develop a strategy in terms of a group strategy, but also at the very time that we needed to invest, there was limited investment because of the recession. So we needed to invest in our people in terms of CPD at a time when it wasn't available. So how do we do it? I would say teamwork, hard work. And Leon talked about getting down and dirty and getting stuck in. And that's really what has helped us achieve where we got today. And it has been difficult, but at the same time, there has been some good fun along the way. McKinsey talked about new technologies are transforming the construction process. But how do you manage change? And when we go back to when we got our certification in our local office in 2015, we thought, this is great, it'll be easy to roll this out across at an organisation level. But maybe not so. You have to manage change across an organisation. And how do you do that? Well, this is how we did it. I'm not saying that's right for everybody here, but we're typically a discipline-led organisation. So if you look at our business in terms of engineering, environment, planning, project management, for example, we have people with ownership responsibility. We have discipline leads. And just like those elements, we have discipline leads in terms of IT, HR, marketing, and also BIM, GIS, technical service. So you have to have somebody that's going to stand up there and be responsible and drive that change program. And that doesn't matter if you're an SME or an organisation like RPS. I would also say in terms of the digital journey that we've had, if you look at from the top left to the right, we've been on a little bit of a journey here. There's been lots of bumps in the road. So, we identified, we selected, we defined, we refined, we looked at our lessons learned. But there's been, there's been a couple of false starts from the early days. But I would say perseverance, education, training. And I would say, in fairness to NSAI, BRE and others, they helped us along the way. And at no point did we ever think that the certification process was a negative or a box ticking exercise. We always felt it was like a CBT exercise. We always felt it was like a training, mentoring exercise. And that was good. And there was a sense of accomplishment when we got the cert. So that was important in terms of what we did. So in terms of our journey, we needed a plan. So education, BRE Global, for example, in terms of individual or our company, in terms of the training elements there. GMIT were instrumental, opened their doors to us, to be fair, when we looked at what we needed in terms of our staff. And it wasn't just about BIM. We were looking at, we would have had people working for us for 25, 30 years that might have joined us with level 6, level 7 qualifications, whatever they were. We needed to get people up into level 8, level 9. We wanted to get people, more people chartered. So we looked at formal qualifications in terms of honours degree qualifications, but being able to deliver in a BIM environment. Certification was important. BRE, NSAI, and others that we worked with, Engineers Ireland, in terms of that whole CPD program. The innovation, well, we've always been trying to be innovative, but it's very difficult to be innovative on projects. We sell time or we sell skills. If you're not trying to add value and deliver value and be efficient in what you do, it's hard to be innovative on projects because you're always under pressure. Opportunities, well, when you're the furthest office away from Europe, which we are in Galway, you have to be innovative to keep the doors open. And maybe that's a little bit about how we have grown our numbers in that time. Geraldine talked about standards in transition, and that will always be the case. And she's absolutely right in terms of, we have to recognise that there's other changes coming around the corner. Again, if we had said in 2011, look, at this 19650 is going to be coming down the road in 8 or 9 years' time, we won't bother, we'll wait for that. You'll never get there. So you have to join the bus, get on the bus at some stage and get stuck in. I'm involved in the Mirror Committee, the national standards, and it's been very good, very positive, and it's something that I think has added value in terms of the people involved. If you look at, this is what we did, just in terms of our approach, we went back at the time to 2011, that strategy, that government construction strategy, and what we did was, what do we need to do in terms of our business to address what they're looking for here? So it doesn't matter if you're a big or small organisation, you need to look at what is it that we need to do to respond to that. So we put in place a company strategy, HR, IT, BIM technical services, all of those things. At the time we were looking at things like the CIC, the PAS suite of documents, government soft languages, all of those. But then as time moved on, we're now moving into the 19650 suite, and we have to update our documents again. And we'll have to do so as we go. And on the bottom right, you'll see our standards that meet those international standards, and that's what's audited along with everything else by BRE, NSAI, etc. When you do that, you have to make those available to your people. So we have a GroupNet intranet system, and we make sure that we get the most up-to-date documents are there and available for staff, so that they're using the most up-to-date as they go. And we have a messaging system so that staff know that they're there. In terms of the BRE, well, John spoke about the actual process. I'm not going to harp on that, but they have a really good website in terms of Global Academy, what they do, and you can go in there. But really, that journey is about company, the guidance, the training at an individual or a company level, and then, when we went over first to Watford, two of us went over back in 2012. Over the years, BRE have come over to our offices, or come over to the West, or come over to Dublin for training and certification. That's how we have grown over that period of time, and that has been very beneficial to us. I put the link up there for the website, but again, you can see the list of companies that have been certified, or individuals that have been certified, and that's really useful in terms of that. Again, that's just the information that's on the website in terms of typically what you have to do. And again, these slides are available for anyone that wants them after I leave here today. So the evidence you need to look at, John spoke about whether it's a task team, lead supplier, or an employer. And again, we're typically certified as the task team, as designers, and that's what we do. And then, the type of information that we need to provide to BRE over that period. So when we look at, it's easy to get lost in that world of BIM, and BIM over here, and then everything else is here. We design and all of those things, and we have other systems. We needed to look at our staff in terms of the overall picture. So we're an Engineers Ireland accredited employer, so we have an appraisal system. We need to match what it is our staff need, what it is we're doing as a company, and then to make sure that we put a plan in place that meets those needs. Part of the certification process that BRE, NSAI, others do is they come in and they look at the individual needs. They come in and look and see where you're at in terms of those qualifications. We have over 50 staff in our Irish business now certified at an individual level with BRE. One of the key things in terms of the whole BIM process is, we've heard it for years now, that we didn't receive an EIR, there was no client requirement, or there wasn't an informed client, so we're not delivering BIM on this project. We're not going to do it. And again, if we had adapted that attitude, we'd never have delivered anything in BIM, and we wouldn't have learned along the way. So at the same time that people were saying this, they were unpacking the new software, shiny, whatever it was, and they were using all these new tools. So what they were in fact doing is they're adding risk into the business. So at a time when there's really good new products out there, there was no consistency in terms of how people were using those new products. So they're not really adding that value. So our rule of thumb, and people again will do their own thing here, is whether or not you have an EIR, we have a rule of thumb across our business is no execution plan, no modelling. How in the name of God can you model if you don't know what you're doing, or what level of detail, or what it is you're doing, or who's doing it, or if they have the skills to do it? That's what we need to have in place. We make sure in terms of the technical standards that they're available, that's just ours, and we keep them updated. And again, similarly with the templates, whatever is needed, we put up on our intranet systems. In terms of the project roles and responsibilities, just the graphic on the right, and this is interesting because we have an IMS system. We're with NSAI for all our various ISOs. So during this transition, we have system that might be at odds with what we're now being asked to do in terms of the BIM environment. So we have to help people along the way in terms of, for example, if we're working on a local drive versus if we're working on a CDE platform. So there's other things we need to do that's not necessarily sitting in a standard or that's whatever, and we have to help people along that journey. And some of those key documents often get missed on that process. The capability assessment forms, again, we're seeing changes here. We're seeing that contractors, for example, are opting for a more sensible approach now. Is some of the original capability assessment forms that we filled out were nearly 100 pages on a submission. Crazy stuff. It took a lot of our time to fill them out. It took a lot of contractors' time to look at them, assess them. So, there's a more sensible approach now where they're looking at those key questions that would affect them, their particular needs as a contractor, and we're able to answer those. And sometimes we have to work with clients, contractors and others in terms of what should be in those forms and where we're doing. In terms of the journey, I suppose one of the projects, and Alan and some of the others will be aware of this, is, if there isn't an EIR, for example, available at the time, how could you move on in any event? Well, you can sit down and you can have a discussion with the client, the contractor, the team, and you can see, can you put an execution plan in place based on the overall project requirements? Can you have a go? Can you see what's happening? You look at your education and training in terms of what's best for that particular project, and you see how you're going to communicate what sort of platforms, what sort of CDE, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's Viewpoint, whatever it might be. You look at what might be the best solution for that particular project, and you always look at your lessons learned as you go. We're lucky enough to be involved in a particular pilot a couple of years ago with Scottish Futures Trust, and again, it's a really good website for those people that would want to get involved and get some knowledge at what you would need to do at a particular phase or stage of a project. And again, John talked about pilots. Pilot project and Pathfinder projects are really good in terms of getting stuck in, getting team members involved, and getting to see how you could move forward on a particular site. That's just a sample of some of the recent ones there. We've Glasgow Airport, we have High Speed 2, we have a couple of projects in Australia again, and everything I'm putting up here is actually done from our local Galway base. So even though we're part of an international group, we're benefiting from projects that we can gain access to through the wider group, but because we have the set of skills locally, we're able to work on those projects. So Gold Coast Airport, Highways England, MLC, it's really positive from that point of view. So when we look at the standards, I would say it doesn't matter, any organisation needs to put in place a technical standard that will suit their needs, meeting those international standards. For us, what we did was, we did that. We have a training program. If you see the top in the middle, we have our higher diploma that we're involved with GMIT. Whether or not the client, an informed client or otherwise, asks us to deliver in a BIM environment, what we always do is at a minimum, we put a post-BEP in place. And last year we started to integrate, and we have now integrated formally the BIM approved graduate program. So what we have is for anyone that completes a higher diploma in GMIT, as part of that they will also gain a BIM approved graduate qualification if they meet those requirements. Some results, very positive, I suppose, just in terms of, you know, we have our various different certs from NSAI, and in addition to that we have our BRE certification in terms of both individual and company. Really positive from early days was how, and this is just our experience, how NSAI and BRE were willing to work together from 2013 in terms of, you know, we said that BRE were helping us at the time with our training, our certification in terms of BIM, but just some of the feedback we got, and this is I think 2013, we see Hamilton, this is from our audit that came back, achievement of BRE global certification for BIM level 2 for the Galway office was seen as an area of strength back in 2013. And again, I would say both organisations were helping us see how we were not going to fall foul of any system that we had there, and that we're going to work together. I suppose this was one of the key, one of the really good pieces that happened for us. Typically, our CPD in terms of our Engineers Ireland accreditation was granted on a 1 year based on either having a primary or advanced CPD. And last year, for the first year, we reached level C, which is considered transformational. And again, I would say that our work that we have done in terms of the certification, the training, the education piece has got us to that level. Now we have to maintain it, and we have to make sure that we continue the hard work that, you know, across the teams. But that was probably one of the best results, you know, in addition to the project wins that we got. We were very fortunate in terms of some of the national and international awards we have won for our programs in terms of education and training. And, you know, again, that's a team effort, and we're very happy about that. Next steps, I suppose. Well, we want to take over the World Centre of Excellence. We're going to remain positive, but I would say smart methods of working within our business stream. So we want to continue to share what we have learned over the last number of years. And I was asking for some feedback yesterday on the presentation, and said, you know, it's good, it's a good story. And I said, yeah, we've only been 10 years working on this presentation, so it's you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. But I would say roll up the sleeves, get involved, look at the whole certification as a positive CPD experience, and, you know, a formal recognition of the hard work that you can do. If you have any questions, delighted to take them afterwards. Thanks very much.